Recently, Ethiopia's Prime Minister Dr. Abiy Ahmed addressed members of the parliament on the vitality of having access to seaport. The PM in his remarks said owning a port is an existential national interest of Ethiopia, not a choice, so that his government would execute this ambitious plan through peaceful ways. The United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea states that landlocked states shall enjoy the freedom of transit states concerning through bilateral or any way other agreements. Based on the UN's Convention on the Law of the Sea, Ethiopia's claim to have access to port is very legitimate, said a Canadian criminal defense attorney and expert in international law and UN International Criminal Tribunal for Rwandan genocide, John Philpot. According to Article 125 of the UN Convention, claiming access to port doesn't mean that invading a sovereign host country.
The United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea provides for landlocked nations to have a right to access the sea. And obviously, it's a very great importance for countries such as Ethiopia, or even smaller countries which are isolated from the sea and wish to do business, ship, transportation by the sea. So Ethiopia has this right, but this right is framed in Article 125, which also provides that the transit country remains sovereign and any access has to respect the rights of the transit country, which in this case most likely would be Eritrea. And so this is the term we sometimes use in English is the conundrum. It is the problem which Ethiopia faces because they cannot unilaterally impose by force or by other means passage or ownership or whatever you want kind of lease to get to the sea. So this is the problem which the entire world is watching right now, and I think you want to discuss that today.
The expert tried to mention experiences of other countries which obtained a port by claiming for it, like Ethiopia. He mentioned port utilizations being carried out between Nepal and India, Rwanda and Kenya, Mali and Senegal, as well as Chile and Bolivia.
In 1992, Rwanda negotiated with Kenya to have a port in Mombasa, and that was a fruitful negotiation, which unfortunately became more complicated with the war in Rwanda. There is Nepal and India have an agreement signed on July 31st, 1950, where India recognizes the state of Nepal's unrestricted right of transit of all goods through the territory of India. Mali, which is a fairly populous country, has an agreement with Senegal signed in 1963. There are also problems. For example, there's a very famous and very well-known potential conflict between Chile and Bolivia.
John added Ethiopia's claim would benefit not only Ethiopia but also the entire Horn of Africa.
If your area of the world becomes a path of important economic development, there will be benefits for Eritrea and Ethiopia. That's a question also of philosophical approach to development. If development is designed to benefit the entire population, then the benefits can be very great.